be three important presentations. And these important presentations will tackle, firstly, issue on coexistence. Secondly, the issue on the low-level presence. And finally, on BT talong or BT eggplant. But before we start, we would like to show a voice-over recording on security briefing for our APEC delegates.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Function Rooms 1 and 2, Iloilo Convention Center. For your safety, there are 4 emergency exits in this hall, 2 to the west and 2 to the east. In case of fire or earthquake, security personnel shall escort you to the assembly area located in front of the building. Do not use the elevators or escalators. Use the emergency exit stairwells to vacate the building instead. For your convenience, the men's and ladies' rooms are located outside this hall towards the southeast. The medical room is located at the ground floor near the escalator. Likewise, medical personnel are stationed outside this hall should you need assistance. Thank you and have a good day.
So, thank you. The gentleman who will give us the opening remarks is, we all call him Manong. In the Philippines, Manong means elder brother. So Manong Sim, aside from being the executive director of CropLife Philippines, is also the current president of the UP Los Baños Alumni Association. Correct, Manong Sim? So Manong Sim, please grace us with your opening remarks. Morning.
Sa inyong lahat, maayong aga sa inyo na tanan. The last phrase is local, in the local language, in the dialect, which is called Ilonggo. And along this line, I am pleased to welcome all of you to this forum. And we are thankful that the private sector has been given time during this event, these next 2 days. So on behalf of the plant science industry, particularly those involved in the development of the GM seed industry, we welcome all of you to this beautiful, charming city of very friendly people. You know, there is a joke which compares people of other dialects, other languages. And it is well known among us that people in this region, which really consists of a number of provinces, no? Including neighboring, across the sea, which is called Negros Occidental. The dialect that they speak is Ilonggo, and it is one of the most soft-spoken dialects in the country. Now, the Philippines has sort of set the way for the planting of GM crops, particularly corn, which has really contributed a lot to the agricultural economy. And over the last more than 10 years, corn production in the country has really increased consistently, that we have reached that level of self-sufficiency. And this is really because of public and private cooperation, collaboration. It would not have been possible without this public-private collaboration. So here we are, and I believe this is also an example of public-private collaboration. So the program this morning seems to be light. There are only 3 main topics as described by Abe here. And I believe we're not going to overtax you, particularly that we want to be sure that you have enough time to see the place, to see Iloilo. I think that you must make sure, believe that you must make sure that at least you spend half a day or so to see the place. There are old churches in the city. The city is popular for old churches, so I believe that it would be good for everyone to see these churches and other places. The food here is good, excellent. So I wish you all a good time. Enjoy the food, enjoy the sights. Thank you. Mabuhay.
Salamat, Manong Sim. Thank you, Manong Sim. So, we'll head to the first presentation. So, the first presentation will be given to us by our dear Dr. Saturnina C. Halos. She has assisted the Department of Agriculture in developing and overseeing implementation of its policies and programs in biotechnology and chairs its biotechnology advisory team since the early 2000s. She has actively participated in the drafting of GM crop regulatory policies and has served as technical consultant to the Philippine Congress in drafting the Agriculture and Fisheries Modernization Act, or AFMA, of 1997, in preparation of various agricultural bills and resolutions 2009 to 2010. Dr. Nina has established the first functional forensic DNA analysis laboratory in the country. She has more than 40 years of experience in teaching, research, and extension in molecular biology and biotechnology in various capacities in a number of universities and governmental departments. She has more than 80 scientific articles and books in biotechnology and biosafety. Ma'am Nina holds a BS Science in Agriculture, Agronomy and Plant Breeding magna cum laude from the University of the Philippines in Los Baños, and a PhD in Genetics from the University of California, Berkeley. Ladies and gentlemen, to present on GM and organic farming coexistence, Dr. Nina.
Thank you, Abe. Good morning, everyone. And for those of you who are first in Iloilo, it's really a very nice city. And what they've done here is really remarkable. You might want to visit the Iloilo River, which used to be highly polluted, which is very, very clean today because of the efforts of the current administration. Okay. But let us go back to the issue of coexistence in GM crop farming. May I have the point? Okay, next slide, please. Saan? Saan? Ito? No? Ito ba? Oh, here. Okay, thank you. Next. Saan dito? Yan. Well, let me just relate to you this very recent news article about the organic farmer in Australia who lost his appeal about genetically modified canola, actually. He wanted compensation from his neighbor who is planting the genetically engineered canola. This is a farmer, organic farmer in Western Australia. And he lost his organic certification because of the presence of the transgenes in his produce. And this farmer, the organic farmer, went to court and he was seeking more than $80,000 in compensation, Australian dollars. But last year, the Supreme Court dismissed the case, saying that the farmer who was planting genetically modified canola did not act negligently. It was not intentional, and he could not be held responsible for growing a GM crop in a conventional way. In addition to that, the court awarded the farmer, the genetically modified canola farmer, a compensation for the cost of the court case. Well, the farmer who had been planting the genetically modified canola said that, you know, between farmers, they should have talked about this, and they could have come up with a solution rather than for them to go into court. And he was saying, you know, that he's an organic farmer, he cannot spray, he cannot use chemicals, and, you know, there would be pests in his farm that would go over also to his farm. And he was not complaining about that. But the organic farmer was saying, you know, that the product has a technology in it, it is a patented technology, and therefore it is not the same. Okay. But he lost that kind of reasoning because the judge just said that the choice of the organic farmer did not mean that his neighboring farm, using his land lawfully, constituted a wrongful interference to the organic farmer's production system. Because the organic farmer actually placed their land in an abnormally sensitive use. Okay? And therefore, they should have been the one. Well, that's not the judge just said that they cannot unilaterally enlarge on their own rights, meaning they cannot impose their rights over that of their neighbor. So this is the current problem actually with coexistence. And what is coexistence? This is the simultaneous cultivation of conventional, organic, identity-preserved, genetically engineered crops of the same species in the same geographic area. That means they're all neighbors, you know, farms using different production systems. In Europe, coexistence refers to the choice of consumers and farmers between conventional, organic, and GM crop production. And it has to be in compliance with the legal obligations for labeling. So it is in compliance with labeling, not with safety, because all of these are considered safe. Now, if you have all these plants in the same area, okay, the same species, and you planted them at the same time, then there is a very high possibility of interbreeding, you know, exchanging pollen among the plants within those different farming systems. And this could lead to the adventitious presence of the genetically modified seeds in the non-genetically modified crops. And that's why, you know, if we wanted to preserve the identity of each crop that is planted in the different farming systems, then there should be suitable measures that should be followed during cultivation, harvest, transport, storage, and processing so that you can maintain the identity of all those crops. Now let us look at organic agriculture now because this could be the problem. Now, the concept of organic agriculture was introduced in the 1920s. As of 2013, and the data here is not yet very verified, there are 43.2 million hectares that are practicing organic agriculture. And there are 187 economies in the whole world. There are 52 mega economies planting more than 50,000. Philippines was claimed to be part of this economy, but I was verifying the data yesterday, and they were telling me, yes, we have 80,000 hectares converted for organic farming, but these are not yet certified, and therefore they are not, you know, considered really organic. Okay, we only have more than 10,000 hectares today. And then there are many crop species, okay? Number of crop species. And the top 10 economies that are planting the largest area, number one is Australia, 17 million hectares of organic farms. Okay, then you have Argentina, which is, I think, about only 3 million. USA is about 2 million. China, about 2 million. And then you have Spain, Italy, Germany, France, Uruguay, and Canada. And out of the 21 APEC economies, we have 18 with organic agriculture areas. Now, comparing with this with the rate of adoption of genetically modified crops, we first planted commercially the genetically modified crops in 1996, okay? As of 2014, there are 181.5 million hectares of GM crops. And there are only 28 economies compared with organic, which is 187 economies. We have 18 million farmers, of which 16.5 million are small farmers. And they started as resource poor. I say started as resource poor because I'll show you some data later in the Philippines that shows that they're no longer, resource poor. Okay, but there are only 13 crop species that are genetically engineered. Now, the top 10 economies producing these genetically modified crops are, number one is USA, then you have Brazil, Argentina, India, Canada, China, Paraguay, Pakistan, South Africa, and Uruguay. Now, I have underlined here the countries that are also having large areas of organic farms, which would be USA, Argentina, Canada, China, Uruguay. Although all the other countries that are listed as top 10 also have organic farms, but not as extensively as those areas that have been underlined. Among APEC members, we have only 7 that has produced large quantities of GM crops. You have a list here: USA, Canada, China, Philippines, Australia, Mexico, and Chile. And we're hoping that Indonesia and Vietnam would soon join us because they have already they've approved already their own genetically modified crop. And this is where the genetically modified crops are being planted all over the world. Okay, those are in colored areas, as you can see in here. Okay, if you look at GMO-based farming and organic agriculture, we share the same objective, that is sustainable agriculture, and we want to work towards an economically viable, safe, and environment-friendly agricultural system. Okay, that's what we want. But the problem in coexistence, of course, is that organic agriculture, their standards would reject the use of genetically modified organisms in their production system. So that when you have plants planted, you have 2 production systems coexisting in the same area, like GM farm and organic farm, then there could be a problem because of cross-pollination. So that for GM farm and organic farm to coexist, cross-pollination between the farms should be prevented. Now, it has been long known in agriculture, in crop production, that there are measures that you can use to prevent such thing from happening or reducing the amount of exchange between those kind of farms. You can have different planting times. You can use buffer zones. There should be sufficient distance between farms, or you can isolate one farm from the other. And then Chile has been quite successful, actually, in this. But the first essential step, actually, is for neighboring farmers to talk with each other. The European guidelines on coexistence has been adopted for quite some time now, and they have this listed as the approaches to coexistence. There is a need to be developed for the coexistence policy in a transparent way based on scientific evidence and in cooperation with all concerned, okay? Not just one sector. And there should be an equitable balance between the interests of all the farmers that are using different production systems. And of course, it's in Europe, they're talking about legal labeling thresholds and purity standards. They have set purity standards for especially for organic produce or for labeling, they have purity standards. And the measures for coexistence should be efficient, it should be cost effective, and it should be specific for different type of crops. It cannot be general because especially when you talk about cross-pollination, we have species wherein they are self-pollinating, therefore the cross-pollination is not that high compared with cross-pollinating species. There must be these strategies that has to be adapted to ensure coexistence must have a fair balance between the interests of farmers of all types of production. As the court in Australia said, you know, one farmer's rights should not be considered more than another. Okay, and farmers should have the freedom to choose the production system that they prefer without imposing the necessity to change already established production patterns in the neighborhood. So if you're the new one, then you're the one to adjust, okay? Like in the next statement, that was clearly explained, it says, farmer who introduce a new production system should bear the responsibility of implementing the actions necessary to limit admixture, okay? And the imperatives for improving measures over time should include continuous monitoring and evaluation and the timely sharing of best practices. And I think that we could do within us here in the APEC, you know, timely sharing of best practices would be a good, you know, activity for this group. Now, the question is, should economists intervene to avoid conflicts between organic farmer and GM crop farmer, as demonstrated in the Australian case, and this is also true in the US, the loss of organic certification, the loss of export markets as reported by some US farmers. A group in the US have studied and they came up with recommendations on how to handle conflicts on on this, and they are proposing a federal insurance scheme for organic farming against cross-pollination from GM crops, similar to, you know, to the federal insurance scheme for during disasters, actually. And they recommend that good stewardship practices and communication among neighboring farmers should be promoted. Chile has been very successful in this. They have an industry-led system, and but what really emphasized in here is the cooperation among members. Our Chile delegates might want to explain further about this model. Okay, but for true cooperation, we really need tolerance. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Ma'am Nina. So we have enough time actually for your questions. Supposedly the questions would be open. The floor would be open later after the